Hello, welcome to the masterclass on how to make a backpack that doubles as a laptop bag. My name is Funke Oyende and I will be taking you through this training. A backpack is made up of three different components. It has a front piece, a back piece, and a middle piece. Once you put together your front piece, your middle piece, and your back piece, you assemble it and you will be done. So let me quickly show you the materials we are going to use for the backpack. So here I have the materials. So this is my front. I have two pieces of material here. One is for the front piece, one is for the back piece. And this white foam here, I'll be using it to pad the front and the back pieces so that my backpack is going to be padded. And I'll be using this for the handle. You see the handle is shaped. So all you need to do is to cut out the shape on paper and then you transfer it to your fabric. So this is for the handle of the bag, and this is the divider. This one here is a divider. It's padded also. This is what I'm going to use to create the laptop compartment. So here I have the pieces for the middle piece. I will be giving you the measurement when I begin to sew, so don't worry about the measurement for now. So I'll be using this zipper and I'll be using this as pockets that I will attach to the front piece. And I'll be using these sliders together with the belt or webbing. So I'll be using these and the sliders together to form the handles of the bag at the back. So all this will go on the back piece. And I'll be using this zipper on the front, on the middle piece and on the front pocket. So there's going to be a short handle on top of the bag so that you can hold it with a short handle or you carry it on your back. So I'll be using this together with Velcro to close the laptop compartment. So essentially those are the materials we are going to use. So I'm going to get on the sewing machine now so we can start putting the bag together. Okay, so I'm going to begin by showing you how to prepare your front and back pieces. So these two pieces are for the front and the back, and the length is 21 inches. It's 21 inches long, the both of them, 21 inches long and 15 inches wide. That is the measurement I want to use, though you can vary it depending on the size. So I just want my backpack to be big enough, so that's why I'm using that measurement. So the first thing you're going to do is to shape. I want to shape my backpack so that it doesn't look four corner. I want the top to be rounded. So I'm going to fold it like this. I'm going to fold it lengthwise and use your chalk or marker to draw this shape. You can see how I marked it. So once you draw that mark, then you use your scissors and cut it out. So the cutting will affect the two sides. So once you have cut it out like that, you now transfer that to the other side, to the back. So that's what I've already done that. So I've already shaped the foam that I'll be using inside to that. So you can see that I've already shaped it. It's already looking rounded. So I've already shaped. So I will now be transferring this to the front and to the back pieces. So I just pinned the foam with that shape. I pin it to my material, to the fabric. I've already pinned it up, so I'll just use my scissors to trim it all around to that same shape. Alright, so my front and back pieces are ready and shaped, so I'm going to pull them aside. Then I'm going to now grab the pockets. This is what I want to use for the pockets that I'll be attaching to the front piece of the bag. It is measuring 14 inches long and 15 inches wide. It's the same width as the body of the bag, the front and back pieces. So it's 15 inches wide but 14 inches long. That also is variable. You can still vary the length of your pocket. So I am going to I'm going to attach a lining to the back. I'm going to attach a lining together with my pockets, and I'm going to sew a zipper in between. So let me insert the puller into the zipper. So I'm going to do that now. So I open it up a little bit and insert the puller on both. I will insert both sides of the zipper a little bit on both sides and push it in, and I'll pull the zipper. So that is done. So I'm going to be sewing this in between the body of the bag and the lining fabric. The zipper is in between the lining, and as you sew, make sure you pull you remove the zipper puller, you pull it out of the way so that it doesn't get in the way of your needle and break your needle. So once you are done, so you turn it, and then this is what we have. So you now push the lining to the back of the back fabric. So I'm going to now put my foam in between the lining and the bag fabric, so that I want my pocket to be padded. So I insert my foam in between the two pieces, and the next thing, I'm going to sew lines, and I'm going to sew some, I'm just going to stitch some curves or lines just to hold the three pieces together and to design the pockets. So let me pin it in place so that it doesn't shift. Then I'll just do the designing. You can design whatever you like. So let me just do something like this. And let me do it on the other side also. Okay, so this is what I have. I have that curve at this one side and the other side, and I did it at the bottom also. So that is like a design now on the pocket of my bag, on the pocket. So the next thing is to sew this pocket to the front piece. So I'm going to grab my front piece and I'm going to sew the pocket onto it. So you see that I have to shape the pocket to match the shape of the front piece. So that means I have to trim a little bit out of it, on both sides so that it matches with this shape. And this zipper, I'll have to turn it and sew it in like this inside, and then I'll turn it back. Now before I stitch the zip, I deliberately the zip, the pocket is a bit, you can see that it's not aligning with the base, the bottom of the front piece a little bit. I did that on purpose, so I'll show you why later. So now I'm going to sew the zip inside, then I'll turn the pocket, I'll turn it back when I'm done. So after sewing the zip now, after sewing it down, I am now going to sew the side of the pocket to the front piece, but you see that the pocket is longer down, so it's longer than this. So I'll have to now push the pocket up and sew from the end of the pocket, so that the excess of the pocket now is going to come up like this and overlap. I want it to sort of create an overlapping effect on the zip on top. That was why I allowed the pocket to be longer. So I'm now going to, you can pin it up and then you stitch it down. Here we are. So I have pinned it down. I've pinned the pocket to the front piece, so I will now be sewing it and trimming off all the excess at the sides of the pocket. Okay, so now I have sewn the pocket to the front, and you can see that the zip is now submerged. So this is the effect I wanted to achieve, and here is the front piece. So I'm going to now, to finish the front piece, I'm going to add my foam here again and the lining, and I'll sew up everything together. So I'm going to put foam here, and I'll put fabric lining, and I'm going to sew everything up to finish my front piece. So here we are. I've attached my front piece to the lining. The foam is already behind the front piece, so I didn't bother cutting out the lining, so I'll just sew the front piece with the lining around I'm going to sew it on top of the lining around, then I will trim off all the excess lining fabric. Okay, so I've gone round, so I'm just going to remove and cut and remove all the excess lining from around the front piece. So with that done, our front piece is ready. You can see it. You can see it. So that's the front piece, and that's the lining part of it. So I'm going to set the front piece aside and start working on the back piece. So for the back piece, the first thing I want to do is to assemble the handles that will be at the back. So I showed you the handles earlier on. Is this curved kind of handle, this curved shape. So for you to get it right, you have to make sure you have a right and a left. Don't cut two right or two left. So that means when you cut one, you have to reverse it and place it on the fabric to get the other side. So now I'm going to sew this to my lining. I'm going to sew it onto my lining fabric, right sides facing. So that's what I'm going to do now. Just sew the two of them on top of the lining first, and I'm going to turn it right side out. So here I've sewn the handles to my fabric lining without cutting out the lining, so I'll just use my scissors and cut out the handles now. So the next stage will be for me to insert my foam inside of my handle right now. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to insert this inside. So I'm going to start from the closed and curved end here. I'll push this in. I'll push it in, and then I will now insert this and push it to the top. So I'll be turning it right side out at the same time. You can use something blunt to help you push it in faster, and you can use a thicker foam for a better effect. So once you are done with that, we will now be sewing our slider and a little bit of belt. So I'll be using 1-inch wide belt or webbing and 1-inch wide slider or adjuster. So I'm going to sew this onto the handle here to serve as a kind of joint. So because we are going to attach another belt or handle that will connect with the main body of the bag. So I'm going to sew this on top of the handle here. So next, after attaching my connector to the two handles, I put them aside. Then I have my bag fabric 4 inches square. So I'm going to cut it into two this way in the shape of a triangle. So I'll now use each of the triangles together with I have another 20 inches long belt or webbing here, 1-inch belt, 1-inch webbing. So I'm going to sew it in the middle of this triangle, fold the triangle over it this way, and sew it. The proper way to sew the belt inside of the triangle, the belt is going to come inside like this. So this is the proper way to do it. I made a mistake the first time, so this is what you're going to do and sew it. Okay. So once that is done, then we're going to turn it down this way. So we're now going to sew this to the we're going to sew it to the end near the bottom of the back piece near the end of each side of the back piece. So I have attached them to the ends, to that portion of the back piece. So I'm going to connect them with this other place, but I want to, okay, let me connect. So you just do your connection. And you bring it out the other end. So it's a good idea to hem the end of your webbing so that it doesn't lose. So you just turn it and you hem it. It will not lose and it will also not come out easily. So next I'm going to sew the open. So I'm going to sew the top of the handles to the top of the back piece. So I've already fixed my handles down. I'm going to be sewing. Then I'm going to sew this 1-inch belt or webbing also together with it. So this will be for like hanging the bag. So don't forget to, so it's about 12 inches long. This belt or webbing is about 12 inches long. So I'm stitching it down to the top of the back piece. So that is done. So we're almost done with our back piece. The next thing will now be to put in and attach the foam and lining to the back piece, just like we did for the front piece. So we're going to finish the back piece by putting the lining and foam together, just like we did for the front piece. So I'm going to sew the back piece and the lining together around. So after sewing around, I'm going to trim off all the excess lining from around the back piece before I continue. So after removing all the excess lining from the back piece, I want to make a sort of design also on the back piece like we did for the front piece pocket. So let me just make a design so as to piece them together, the lining, the foam and the fabric. So do that, and then I'll bring it from the other side also. Okay, so that's okay. So that's the design I have on the back piece, something like a Y. Hope you've seen it. Okay, let me raise up the camera and you'll be so see. Okay, so that's the design I have on the back piece. So I'm going to put the back piece aside and start working on the middle piece. So our front and back pieces are done, so we are left with the middle piece. So for my middle piece, I want to first of all sew the short handle that I'll be attaching to the middle piece. So this is what I want to use for that short handle, and I have just about 12 inches by 3 inches for that short handle. So I will be sewing it onto my lining fabric, right sides facing. So let me sew that to the lining fabric. So I'm going to cut it out from the lining and remove all the excess lining, and then after that I'm going to turn it right side out. So next I'm going to insert my foam into it. So my foam is not as long as the handle. The foam is just about 9 inches long and 2.5 inches wide. And you see I had to stack about 3 layers of foam together so as to have something thick. I want the handle to be thick. Then I'm going to insert it inside of the tube that I just created. Okay, so now I have inserted the foam inside of the tube. But I'm going to put this aside because I just remember that I'm not yet done with the back piece, because it is not just a backpack, it is also a laptop bag. So I have to insert the laptop compartment onto the back piece to be able to complete the back piece. So I have my laptop compartment piece here. So I'm just going to, I've already inserted the foam inside, so I will just sew on the 2 sides. I just sew this on the 2 sides. Already you know that our bag is 15 inches wide, so the lining too is going to be 15 inches wide after you have folded it, and I'm using a length of 15 inches, so it's 15 inches by 15 inches after you have folded it. So that means if you open it out, it will be 30 inches long by 15 inches wide. But when you fold it and insert your foam, you have 15 inches by 15 inches. So you just sew the 2 sides. So I've sewn the 2 sides. So the next thing, I'm going to sew one side of my Velcro onto the top of the laptop compartment. Okay, so I'll sew this to the same shape, center it very well, and then you sew it down. So I've sewn that one side down here. So the second side is going to be sewn onto my wide belt This is 1.5 inches wide, so it's wider than the previous one I used. So I'm going to sew this onto this. So I'm just turning it a little bit of the end so that it doesn't loose. Then I'll sew the Velcro on top. So after sewing it down, so I'll just keep this aside. Then I'm going to sew this laptop compartment onto the inner side of the back piece. We need to pin it down so that it doesn't shift. So here we are. I've just pinned it. I've not sewn it, I only just pinned it down. So I'm now going to sew the two sides of the compartment to the back piece. Okay, so I've sewn the laptop compartment to the back piece around now, so you can see. So all I have to do left to complete this is to sew this. I'm going to sew this to the top here so that you can use it to cover the laptop compartment. So I'll just sew this on top here, and then we are done with the back piece. I'm going to sew it to the center. So, and that is done. So the next thing is to now assemble our middle piece. To assemble our middle piece, we need to calculate the measurement of what we have around the circumference of the front and back pieces. So you need to measure what you have around your back piece and your front piece, and they should be the same. So that measurement is what you use to prepare your middle piece. So let me measure and come back. So after measuring around, I have 65.5 inches around my front and back pieces. Now that means my middle piece is we're going to need that 65.5 inches to cut for our middle piece. So our middle piece is supposed to be about that size of 65.5, but of course, you know, we need to add the sewing allowance to that. So but the middle piece is not just going to be one long piece, it has to be two. We're going to cut it into two pieces because one aspect of it will carry the zipper that will be on top, that we'll use to open the major compartment of the bag. So now here are the two pieces. This is one piece. This first piece here, this is where I'm going to attach the zip. So this one is just 30 inches long. So this is the second side. This one will not have a zip. This one is going to go from the middle of the bag to the bottom to the middle. So this one will not have zip. So this one is a bit longer than this side that will carry the zip. But I made this one is just about I think 5.5 inches wide, while the other one that will not have zip is 6 inches wide. So I'm going to attach my zipper to this, but before I do that, I first of all want to insert the short handle I made earlier to the middle of this this part that will carry the zip. So let me find the middle. Let me get the middle of it first. So you just fold it in two to get the middle. So let me notch that middle point on both sides so it will guide me. So I will now sew this. See what I'm doing? So I'm going to now fold this. I'm going to fold a little bit of this on top and sew it down inside to hide the end of the short handle. So I open it out and I'll sew it again to flatten it. And I'm going to repeat that at the other side. So now I have that assembled. So the next thing is to sew in. I'm going to sew my zipper onto one side of this this top part of the middle piece. So but I'm going to insert two pullers, one from this end and one from this end. So this zipper is going to have two pullers. So after fixing my pullers, so I'm going to sew it to the middle piece. Right sides facing. So I'm now going to, after sewing it that first time, so I'll push this underneath and sew it on top again. Second time I'm going to sew it on top. So after sewing in my zip, the next thing is to sew in the second part. So I will just join it on this side. Right sides facing. Then I'll open it out and sew it again on top. Okay, so the next thing now is to be very sure of your measurement before you join the second side to form the ring. So you measure all over and make sure that you take in all the excess as sewing allowance before you join, so that what you have in the middle is exactly 65.5, so that it will fit in with the second side. So I now join this side, the second side, inside, and I turn it and sew it at the top also. So finally, we are now going to assemble the three parts together to form one. So I'm going to get the middle of this middle piece, okay, which is here where I notched, and that's where I'm going to start attaching from. This middle part, I'm going to align it with the middle part of the, okay, yeah, so this is still me here. So the middle of your back piece and the middle of the middle piece, you align them together and sew all around. So you go all around and sew them together. So after sewing in the back piece and the middle piece together, so the next I'm going to sew in the front piece here. So you grab your front piece, get the middle of the front piece on top, and align it with the middle of the middle piece again, and sew all around. So now I've sewn the front piece also to it, and our bag is done. So we just have to turn it right side out now. But finally, to make the inside of the bag very neat, you just get your 1-inch taping, and then you cover this edge, you sew it around all the edge of your inner part to make the inside very neat. And once you have done that, you are through with the bag. So we just turn it right side out, open the zipper and turn it right side out, and our bag is ready. Finally, before I turn it right side out, let me show you how to tape the inside. So you just do this and you sew around. You sew all around. And finally, I'm turning it right side out. Yeah, and this is our backpack. This is our backpack. This is our beautiful backpack. You can see it. That's the back. So I hope you enjoyed this and you are ready to make your own. So thank you, and looking forward to seeing your own backpack. Bye for now.